Well, Anonymous, thank you for participating in my project. I suppose you wouldn't want to say anything about yourself, so I won't ask. Maybe you do?
I'm 23. I'm an Army veteran, and that's about all I got.
Did you know that NASA's planning to send astronauts back to the moon?
I mean, you just mentioned it before the interview, so I had a vague semblance of an idea. Sure.
Any initial reaction?
It's exciting, and I've been seeing like a lot more space-themed stuff going on, so I figured NASA was up to something. Why are we going back to the moon? Is there something new there?
We discovered water ice in the moon and like these permanently shadowed craters, so we thought we'd check that out. And then, just the desire to explore and expand humanity is kind of what I see value in it. Everybody has their own story.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Just humans wanting to explore and...
It's interesting. I'm not opposed, I can't really take some dramatic stance, and yet, man, we don't need to find a new habitable planet. I don't think we're in any rush. Lots of people like to make it sound like the world is on the brink of collapse.
Sure.
But of course, people have been saying that every decade for whatever new progression is making people scared, so.
I know that living through World War II, I mean, that had to be really horrifying times. If you're living in like London and bombs are falling on your house every night,
yeah.
You might feel very different than...
It might feel like it is the end of the world.
Exactly.
And, if it gets to that point and we find a way to live on the moon, that's pretty cool, I guess. But as long as there's still real estate here, I think I'll stay where it's cheaper.
That makes sense, and where you don't have to pay for the air.
Mm-hmm.
In 200 years, do you think we have people like having conversations like this in game stars on the moon and Mars, or do you think we're only doing this on the Earth?
I think if we were going to try to like expand anywhere, no matter if we, of course we have to find stuff like water, like you mentioned, and be able to grow food and stuff like that. We're not going to be able to make it sustainable if we're shuttling it up to the moon. But out of all the places, I think the moon is probably the most sensible because we can actually get stuff like internet there already,
That's true.
Trying to like, could I call someone on Mars? I don't think so. I don't think we've got that figured out yet. Or at least not to the degree that a whole civilization of people can just have a cell plan on Mars that connects them to me on Earth. But the moon, that is a lot more likely, so...
And you're only 3 days away from Earth, and you have like the nice view of the Earth
Yeah.
that you can look at.
No, you know what? It would definitely turn into... There would be lots of vacation stuff out there. That would be, it would be all tourism, I bet.
All right, you have people looking at the Apollo 11 footprints and,
Especially at first, like, who wouldn't want to go to the moon for, just a weekend cruise? Cruise, but on a spaceship,
Yeah. So you don't want to buy real estate, that makes sense. But if you could just take a trip to space, would you?
Yeah. That's very cool. Something have been passionate about now is that I want to visit 100 countries.
Oh, wow.
But I put Antarctica on the list, even though it's not technically a country.
Sure.
I was like, well, it's my list. So I could kick out one of the ones that was a late edition and switch it for the moon. It's my list. I can do that if I want.
That's amazing. So that would count as a country for you.
Sure. I mean, now that I think about it, that's got to be interesting too. Is it whoever gets there first gets to... Like, is the moon going to be a state? I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Back in like the 1980s, Newt Gingrich actually proposed legislation that he was like the Speaker of the House at the time, that if there were like 5,000 Americans living on the moon, that we should incorporate it as like the 51st state or something like that. So it didn't go anywhere, but it's not like completely non-discussed.
All I'll say is if it does become a state, we should not add another star on the flag. We should add a moon.
Add a moon. That's brilliant. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for interviewing me.